Raindrop Beginnings. The rain drummed against the windows of Moonbeam Cafe like impatient fingers, creating a soothing backdrop to the quiet afternoon lull. Sophia Mendez wiped down the counter for the third time, her dark curls escaping from her loose bun as she glanced at the clock. 2 more hours until her shift ended, then she could return to her tiny apartment and the half-finished canvas that had been taunting her for weeks. At 28, Sophia had long ago accepted that. Her art degree would likely never pay the bills. The cafe job kept her afloat while she painted in stolen moments, dreaming of the community art studio she would probably never open. Her grandmother had always told her that art could heal broken spirits, but lately, Sophia wondered if her own spirit needed mending first. The bell above the door jingled and a man rushed in, shaking rainwater from his jacket. He was in his mid-30s with warm brown skin and sharp eyes behind rain-speckled glasses. His collared shirt was neatly pressed, but the circles under his eyes and the slump of his shoulders spoke of exhaustion. "Welcome to Moonbeam," Sophia called, automatic cheerfulness slipping into her voice. "What can I get you?" "Just black coffee, please," he replied, his voice carrying a slight accent that Sophia couldn't quite place. "Indian, perhaps?" He fumbled, with his wallet dropping several coins that scattered across the floor. "I've got it," Sophia said, coming around to help gather them. Their hands almost touched as they reached for the same quarter. "Thank you. I'm not usually this—" He gestured vaguely at himself. "Disheveled." "No worries. We all have those days." Sophia returned to the counter and prepared his coffee. As she worked, she noticed him staring absently at a small painting on the wall, one of hers that the cafe owner had insisted on displaying. When she handed him the coffee, Sophia added a slice of lemon pound cake on a small plate. The man looked confused. "I didn't order." "On the house," Sophia said with a smile. "You look like you could use a little sweetness today." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, followed by genuine gratitude that seemed disproportionate to the simple gesture. "That's very kind. Thank you." "I'm Sophia," she offered. "Rahul Sharma," he replied, taking the items to a corner table. For the next hour, Rahul sat quietly, grading papers and occasionally glancing up at the painting. When the cafe briefly emptied, Sophia found herself drawn to his table. "Are you a teacher?" she asked, nodding at the stack of papers. "Engineering professor at Westlake University," he said. "First-year students who still believe they know everything." His smile was wry but fond. "That painting you keep looking at," Sophia ventured. "I painted it." Rahul's eyes widened. "Really? It's beautiful. The way you captured the light through the rain, it feels like a memory rather than a moment." Sophia felt warmth rush to her cheeks. Few people ever truly saw her work the way she intended it. "Thank you. It's called After the Storm." "Appropriate," Rahul murmured, then checked his watch. "I should go. Thank you again for the cake." "Come back anytime," Sophia said, meaning it. Over the next few weeks, Rahul did return, always during the quiet afternoon hours. Sophia learned he was going through a divorce, that he'd moved to the city for a fresh start, that he loved teaching but hated department politics. In turn, she told him about her grandmother who had raised her, about her abandoned dreams of opening an art studio for children who couldn't afford lessons, about how she painted to remember what hope felt like. Their conversations were brief but increasingly honest. Sometimes Sophia would slip him a free cookie or muffin, and he would accept with that same disproportionate gratitude, as if these small kindnesses were keeping him afloat. One rainy afternoon, exactly like the day they'd met, Rahul arrived, with something tucked under his arm. An umbrella, but not just any umbrella. It was clear plastic, and on the inside, he had attempted to paint a clumsy recreation of her After the Storm piece. "I thought you might need this," he said, handing it to her with embarrassment. I tried to make it special, but I clearly lack your talent. Sophia took the umbrella, throat tight with emotion. It was awkward and amateur, but it was also the first gift anyone had given her in years that showed they were truly listening. "It's perfect," she whispered. And for the first time since her grandmother died, Sophia felt the gentle stirring of possibility, like the first brushstroke on a blank canvas. Canvas conversations. The umbrella became something of a talisman for Sophia. She carried it even on sunny days, its clumsy painted interior a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful gifts came from unexpected places. October slipped into November, and Rahul's visits to Moonbeam Cafe became as regular as the changing leaves outside the window. "You should show me more of your work sometime," he said one afternoon, lingering over his third cup of coffee. The cafe was quiet, just a couple of college students with laptops in the corner. "I'm curious about the artist behind After the Storm." Sophia hesitated. She'd learned to be protective of her art, tired of well-meaning friends suggesting she paint something more commercial or asking why she didn't just do digital design instead. But Rahul had never once suggested her dreams were impractical. "I have some pieces at my apartment," she admitted. "Nothing gallery-worthy." "I doubt that." Rahul's eyes, always so observant behind his glasses, studied her face. "What made you want to become an artist?" Sophia leaned against the counter, memories washing over her. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She was from a small village in Mexico, never had much education, but she understood beauty. She'd take me to the park, point at a sunset, and say, 'Sophia, God is painting today. Pay attention.'" She smiled at the memory. "When I was 8, she saved for months to buy me my first real set of paints. Not the kiddie watercolors, but actual acrylics." "She sounds remarkable," Rahul said softly. "She was. When I was in high school, she got sick. Cancer. During her treatments, I'd bring my sketchbook to the hospital. One day, this little boy in the children's ward saw me drawing and asked if I could teach him. Soon I was spending every afternoon teaching art to the kids there." Sophia's voice grew animated. These kids were dealing with so much pain and fear, but when they were painting, they'd forget about it all. Their faces would light up with such joy. "That's when you dreamed of opening a studio for children?" "Yes. Not just any studio, but one where any child could come regardless of ability to pay. Art therapy for the soul, my grandmother called it." Sophia's smile faded. "She died my sophomore year of college. I tried to keep the dream alive, but practicality won out. Art degrees don't exactly guarantee financial stability." Rahul was quiet for a moment. "May I ask what's stopping you now?" Sophia laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Reality, money, space, business know-how, connections, take your pick. But if those obstacles were removed, then I'd do it in a heartbeat." The conversation shifted when new customers entered, but something had changed between them. A week later, Rahul arrived carrying a leather portfolio. "I have something to show you," he said, seeming both nervous and excited. He opened the portfolio on the counter during a quiet moment. Inside were architectural sketches of a small storefront conversion labeled Luminous Art Studio. "What is this?" Sophia asked, confused. "Just ideas," Rahul said quickly. "The university has an empty property on Hamilton Street. It was donated years ago, but they've never developed it. I sit on the Community Outreach Committee, and we've been discussing potential uses." Sophia's heart began to race as she examined the sketches more closely. The space was divided into a main studio area, smaller private rooms, a gallery wall, and storage spaces. "You're suggesting that the university could partner with a local artist to create a community studio focusing on children's art therapy programs." Rahul pushed his glasses up nervously. "The committee loves the idea of art therapy, especially since the children's hospital is just 3 blocks away. But why would they choose me? I'm nobody in the art world." "Because you understand. what these children need, because your passion is genuine. He hesitated. And because I showed them photographs of your work. You what? Sophia stared at him. How did you even... Remember when you mentioned your Instagram account where you post your art? I hope you don't mind that I looked. He pulled out his phone, open to her modest account of 230 followers. Your work speaks for itself, Sophia, especially the series you did with the children at the hospital. Sophia remembered those pieces, simple collaborative works where she'd outlined images and let the children fill them with colors and patterns during her volunteer visits. The committee wants to meet you next week. It's not a guaranteed yes, but it's a conversation worth having. Rahul looked at her intently. You gave me kindness when I needed it most. Let me help you build your dream. Sophia felt tears threatening. Why would you do this for me? Rahul's expression softened. Because some people paint with brushes, others paint with kindness. You do both. That evening, Sophia invited Rahul to her apartment to see her paintings properly. Her tiny living space was transformed by art, canvases stacked against walls, sketches pinned up, jars of brushes on every surface. Rahul moved through the space with reverence, studying each piece, without speaking. Finally, he turned to her. The world needs to see these, Sophia. Do you really think the university might say yes? She asked, allowing herself to hope for the first time in years. I think, Rahul said carefully, that sometimes the universe conspires to bring the right people together at exactly the right moment. Outside, rain began to fall again, pattering against the windows. Neither of them noticed. They were too busy sketching dreams on napkins, planning curriculum ideas, and imagining possibilities that hadn't existed that morning. As midnight approached, Sophia realized they had covered her kitchen table with notes, diagrams, and hope. When Rahul finally left, he paused at the door. Thank you for sharing your art with me. Thank you for believing it matters, Sophia replied, suddenly understanding that this was more than a business partnership forming. This was friendship deepening into something neither had been looking for, but both desperately needed. Brushstrokes of change. The university committee meeting loomed like an approaching storm. Sophia spent hours preparing her presentation, gathering examples of her work, and researching similar community art programs. She practiced in front of her bathroom mirror until her voice grew hoarse, determined not to let her nerves sabotage this opportunity. The night before the meeting, she called Rahul in a panic. What if they hate the idea? What if they think I'm not qualified? What if... Sophia, Rahul interrupted gently. Breathe. You're not asking for charity. You're offering them a valuable community partnership that will enhance their public image and fulfill their outreach obligations. But I've never done anything like this before. Neither had anyone else until they did. His voice was steady, grounding. Do you remember telling me about that boy in the hospital? The one who said painting made him feel like he could fly even when he couldn't walk? Miguel, Sophia said softly. He had bone cancer. Do this for Miguel and for your grandmother. And for all the children who need what only you can give them. The next morning, Sophia wore her one good blazer over a simple black dress. Rahul met her outside the administration building, his familiar presence calming her racing heart. He looked different in his professional attire. A charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, hair neatly combed, but his eyes held the same warmth she'd come to rely on. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. As I'll ever be. The committee consisted of 7 people, including the Dean of Community Relations, a business professor, and several board members. They listened attentively as Sophia presented her vision for Luminous Art Studio, a space where art could heal, inspire, and transform the community's most vulnerable children. Ms. Mendez, the dean said when she finished, your passion is evident, but passion doesn't pay the bills. How do you envision this project sustaining itself financially? Before Sophia could stammer through her rudimentary budget, Rahul stepped in. "If I may," he said, distributing folders to each committee. "Member, I've taken the liberty of developing a business model based on successful arts nonprofits. You'll see that with initial seed funding and proper grant applications, the studio could be self-sustaining within 18 months. Sophia shot him a grateful look as the committee reviewed the documents. She hadn't known Rahul had gone to such lengths. And what about liability insurance? Building modifications? Supplies? Questioned the business professor. Again, Rahul had answers prepared, outlining partnerships with local businesses, potential corporate sponsors, and fundraising strategies. His academic precision complemented Sophia's artistic vision perfectly. Together, they addressed every concern the committee raised. By the end of the hour, the dean was nodding thoughtfully. "We'll need to review everything in detail, but I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll have an answer for you within 2 weeks." Outside, Sophia practically collapsed against a stone pillar. "You were amazing in there," she told Rahul. "I had no idea you'd prepared all those materials." He smiled sheepishly. "I may have gotten a bit carried away. My ex-wife always said I was too involved in my projects." "Well, I'm grateful for your involvement," Sophia said firmly. "We actually sounded like we knew what we were doing." "We do know what we're doing," Rahul corrected. "You with your art therapy expertise and me with my obsessive planning. We make a good team." The phrase hung between them, weighted with possibility. 2 excruciatingly long weeks later, Sophia was closing the cafe when Rahul burst through the door, waving an official-looking letter. "They said yes," he announced, eyes bright with excitement. "With conditions, of course. They want quarterly reports, strict budgeting, and proof of community impact, but they're giving us the space rent-free for 2 years and providing seed funding." Sophia froze, coffee pot in hand. "They said yes?" she repeated in disbelief. "Yes," Rahul laughed, a full, uninhibited sound she'd never heard from him before. "We start renovations next month. The studio can open by spring." Without thinking, Sophia put down the coffee pot and threw her arms around him. After a startled moment, Rahul's arms encircled her waist, lifting her slightly off the ground in celebration. When he set her down, neither stepped away immediately. "We're really doing this?" Sophia whispered, suddenly aware of their proximity. "We really are," Rahul confirmed, his voice equally soft. The following months were a blur of activity. Rahul's engineering students volunteered to help with renovations as part of their community service requirements. Sophia reached out to her former art professors who donated supplies and offered to teach occasional workshops. The local children's hospital enthusiastically partnered with them to establish regular art therapy sessions. Throughout it all, Sophia and Rahul worked side by side, painting walls, building shelves, developing curricula. They learned each other's rhythms, anticipated each other's needs, and discovered a shared language of meaningful glances and inside jokes. One evening, as they worked late installing track lighting, Sophia noticed Rahul staring at a blank wall. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That this space needs something special," he said. "A statement piece that captures what we're trying to do here." Sophia studied the wall thoughtfully. "I might have an idea." For the next 2 weeks, after finishing their regular work on the studio, Sophia stayed late, working behind a makeshift curtain. She refused to let Rahul see what she was creating, insisting it needed to be a surprise. Finally, the night before their soft opening, she led Rahul into the studio blindfolded. "Ready?" she asked, positioning him in front of the wall. "More than ready," he replied, smiling beneath the blindfold. Sophia removed the cloth and watched his expression transform. The mural depicted a massive tree, its branches spreading across the entire wall. But instead of leaves, the branches held hundreds of small painted handprints in every color imaginable. At the tree's base stood two figures, unmistakably Sophia and Rahul, looking up at the handprints with expressions of wonder. "It's called growing together," Sophia explained quietly. "The handprints represent all the children who will find healing here." Rahul stood speechless, his eyes suspiciously bright behind his glasses. "Do you like it?" Sophia asked when the silence stretched on. "Like it?" Rahul finally turned to her. "Sophia, it's everything. It's exactly what I saw in my mind but couldn't articulate." He reached for her hand, interlacing their fingers. "You make dreams visible." In that moment, with paint still speckled on her overalls and exhaustion tugging at her bones, Sophia felt the truth of her grandmother's words from long ago. Sometimes God paints through people, and sometimes people find each other and create masterpieces neither could have imagined alone. Palette of Possibilities Luminous Arts Studio opened its doors on a perfect spring morning. Sunlight streamed through the freshly cleaned windows, illuminating the colorful space Sophia and Rahul had created together. Children from the local hospitals, oncology ward would be the first to experience the studio, and Sophia's stomach fluttered with nervous anticipation. "What if they don't like it?" she whispered to Rahul as they made final preparations. "What if this whole thing is just a beautiful failure?" He adjusted an easel before answering. "Do you remember telling me about your first painting, the one your grandmother framed and hung in the kitchen even though you said it was terrible?" Sophia smiled at the memory. "She said art isn't about perfection. It's about expression." "Exactly. These children don't need perfection. They need a safe place to express themselves." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "And they have you to guide them." The doubt in Sophia's eyes began to fade. Over the past months, she'd watched Rahul transform from the exhausted, defeated man who'd stumbled into her cafe into someone vibrant and purposeful. His confidence in her vision never wavered, even when her own faith faltered. The door chimed, and they turned to see a group of children entering with their hospital supervisor. Some walked independently, others used wheelchairs or crutches, but all wore expressions of curiosity as they surveyed the studio. A small girl with a colorful headscarf approached Sophia. "Are you the paint lady?" she asked, her voice soft but determined. Sophia knelt to meet her eyes. "I am. My name is Sophia." "What's yours?" "Daniela. I'm 7 3/4." She pointed to Rahul. "Is he the paint man?" Rahul chuckled, joining them. "I'm more of a helper. Professor Rahul, at your service." Daniela studied them both seriously. "Can you teach me to paint sunshine? The real kind that makes you feel warm inside?" Sophia felt something catch in her throat. "Yes, Daniela. That's exactly what we're here to do." The morning unfolded like a flower opening to the sun. Children found their places at easels and tables, experimenting with colors and textures under Sophia's gentle guidance. Rahul moved among them, offering encouragement and assistance, his engineering precision giving way to playful creativity. By lunchtime, the walls were adorned with dozens of paintings, abstract explosions of color, wobbly self-portraits, landscapes of imaginary worlds. Rahul watched Sophia moving from child to child, her face alight with purpose, and realized he'd never seen anything more beautiful. As the weeks passed, word spread about Luminous Arts Studio. What began as a small program for hospital patients expanded to include weekend community classes, summer camps for underprivileged youth, and evening workshops for adults seeking healing through art. Sophia hired 2 part-time assistants, both art therapy students from the university, and Rahul's engineering colleagues began referring students interested in community service. Local businesses donated supplies, and a small article in the city newspaper brought unexpected attention. One rainy afternoon, reminiscent of their first meeting, a well-dressed woman entered the studio during a quiet period between classes. Sophia was reorganizing supplies while Rahul repaired a wobbly table. May I help you? Sophia asked, wiping paint-stained hands on her apron. I hope so, the woman replied, introducing herself as Eleanor Wright, director of the Regional Arts Foundation. I've heard remarkable things about what you're doing here. Sophia glanced at Rahul, who had paused his work to listen. We're just providing a space for creativity and healing. From what I've observed, you're doing much more than that. Eleanor walked around the studio, admiring the children's artwork, displayed on every available surface. The Foundation has a grant program for innovative community arts initiatives. The application deadline is next month, and I strongly encourage you to apply. After she left, Sophia and Rahul stared at each other in disbelief. The Regional Arts Foundation was the most prestigious cultural organization in the state. Their grants were notoriously competitive. Do you think we have a chance? Sophia asked. I think, Rahul said carefully, that we've already accomplished the impossible once. Why not try again? They spent weeks preparing their application, gathering testimonials from parents, doctors, and children. Rahul compiled data showing improved emotional well-being among their regular attendees. Sophia curated a portfolio of before and after artwork demonstrating the psychological progress of several long-term participants. On the night before the submission deadline, they worked late in the studio office, finessing the final details. Rahul ordered takeout, and they ate between paragraphs, their easy companionship making the tedious work almost enjoyable. Did you ever imagine this is where we'd end up when you ordered that first coffee? Sophia asked, leaning back in her chair. Rahul's smile was contemplative. I was at my lowest point that day. The divorce was finalized, my research funding had been cut, and I just learned my mother in India was ill. I remember thinking the rain would never stop. And I gave you a free piece of cake, Sophia said, remembering. You gave me much more than that. Rahul's voice grew serious. You gave me kindness without expectation. Do you know how rare that is? Their eyes met across the desk, and Sophia felt the atmosphere shift subtly. Over the months, their friendship had deepened into something neither had named, both perhaps too afraid to risk the partnership they'd built. Rahul, she began hesitantly, The office phone rang, shattering the moment. It was the hospital supervisor, calling about a scheduling change for the next day's session. By the time Sophia finished the call, the vulnerability in Rahul's expression had been carefully tucked away. They submitted the grant application the next morning and returned to their busy routine. Summer brought new programs and challenges, including a special workshop for refugee children that required translation services in 5 languages. Rahul took a sabbatical from teaching to devote more time to the studio, while Sophia finally quit her cafe job to become the full-time director. On a sweltering August afternoon, Eleanor Wright returned, this time with 2 foundation board members. They observed a session with teenage cancer patients, interviewed Sophia and Rahul separately, and inspected every corner of the operation. The board will vote next week, Eleanor told them before leaving. Whatever happens, you should be immensely proud of what you've created here. 7 days later, a courier delivered a large envelope from the Regional Arts Foundation. Sophia and Rahul retreated to the office to open it together, both too nervous to speak. Inside was a letter confirming they had been awarded a 3-year grant, the largest the foundation had ever given to a new organization. The funding would allow them to expand their programs, hire more staff, and potentially open a second location in an underserved neighborhood. We did it, Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. We actually did it. Rahul's own eyes were suspiciously bright as he pulled her into an embrace. No, Sophia. You did it. This was your vision from the beginning. Our vision, she corrected, looking up at him. I couldn't have done any of this without you. The tension that had been building between them for months crystallized in that moment. Rahul's hand gently cupped her cheek, his question unspoken, but clear in his eyes. Sophia answered by rising on tiptoes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with the release of long restrained emotion. When they finally parted, both were breathless. "I've wanted to do that for a very long time," Rahul admitted, his forehead resting against hers. "What took you so long, Professor?" Sophia teased, though her voice trembled slightly. "Fear," he answered honestly. "Fear that I would ruin the most important partnership in my life." "Some partnerships," Sophia said softly, "are meant to evolve into something more." That evening, they celebrated with a proper dinner at an elegant restaurant overlooking the city. As they shared a dessert, lemon pound cake in homage to their first meeting, Rahul reached across the table for her hand. "When my ex-wife left, she said I was too focused on my work to truly see the people around me," he confessed. "She was right. But you taught me to see again, Sophia. Not just art or beauty, but possibility." "And you taught me that dreams don't have to remain dreams," Sophia replied. "Sometimes they become reality when the right person believes in them." Outside, the summer sky opened in a sudden downpour. They rushed to Rahul's car, laughing as they got soaked despite their best efforts, as raindrops traced patterns on the windows. Sophia was reminded of that first rainy day and the journey that had brought them here, to a life neither had imagined possible, painted in colors they were still discovering together. And somewhere over the Pacific, Rahul carefully placed Sophia's painting in the overhead compartment, carrying with him not regret for what was ending, but gratitude for what had been, and for all the canvases yet to be filled in both their futures. 3 years passed. Luminous Arts Studio expanded to 3 locations, including the permanent installation at the Children's Hospital. Sophia published a book on art therapy techniques that became required reading in university programs nationwide. Her own artwork gained recognition, culminating in a solo exhibition at a prestigious downtown gallery. On the opening night of her exhibition, Sophia stood surrounded by admirers discussing her evolution as an artist. Her Phoenix collection, inspired by the studio flood and its aftermath, had drawn particular critical acclaim for its themes of transformation through adversity. "Your use of fragmentation as a technique is revolutionary," an art critic commented. "The way you incorporate actual damaged canvases into new creations speaks to resilience in a profound way." Sophia smiled politely, though her attention had suddenly shifted to the gallery entrance where a familiar figure had appeared. Taller than she remembered, perhaps, but with the same thoughtful eyes behind stylish glasses. Excusing herself, she crossed the crowded space, heart racing inexplicably after all this time. "Professor Sharma," she said when they stood face to face, "this is an unexpected pleasure." Rahul's smile was warm, if slightly hesitant. "I hope it's not an unwelcome surprise. I read about your exhibition in an international arts journal." "Of course it's welcome," Sophia assured him. "How long are you in town?" "Actually, I've relocated back permanently. The Singapore project is complete, and I've accepted a position as head of the university's new sustainable engineering department." Sophia blinked in surprise. "That's wonderful. Congratulations." "Thank you." He gestured to the paintings surrounding them. "Your work is extraordinary, Sophia. You've come so far." "So have you. I read about your innovations in water purification systems for developing nations." A comfortable silence fell between them, filled with unspoken acknowledgments of the paths they'd traveled separately. "How is the studio?" Rahul asked finally. "Thriving. We have 15 staff members now, and programs in 3 locations." Sophia's eyes brightened with professional pride. "Daniela is one of our youth instructors, if you can believe it. She's studying art therapy in college now." "I'd love to see it sometime," Rahul said carefully. "If that wouldn't be strange." Before Sophia could respond, they were interrupted by a tall woman with kind eyes who appeared at Rahul's side, linking her arm through his. "There you are," the woman said. I was admiring the triptych in the East Gallery. Sophia, this is Dr. Amara Wilson, Rahul introduced. My colleague at the university. Amara, this is Sophia Mendez, the artist and founder of Luminous Arts Studio. The famous Sophia, Amara said warmly, extending her hand. Rahul speaks of you often. Your work together sounds remarkable. Something in her tone suggested professional admiration rather than personal jealousy. Sophia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The studio wouldn't exist without Rahul's contributions, she acknowledged sincerely. His influence is still evident in everything we do. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, Amara excused herself to examine another painting, leaving them alone again. She seems lovely, Sophia offered, testing the waters. She is, Rahul agreed. A brilliant environmental engineer. We're collaborating on several projects. He didn't elaborate on the nature of their relationship, and Sophia didn't ask. Some questions belong to a different time. I should return to my guests, she said, gesturing to the crowded gallery. But perhaps you could visit the studio next week. The children would be thrilled to see you again. I'd like that, Rahul said simply. As Sophia moved away, Rahul called after her. Sophia, I still have it, you know. She turned back. Have what? Your painting. The one of the studio filled with children and sunlight. It's hung in every office I've had since leaving. Sophia smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. And I still have yours. The cafe in the rain. It's in my studio at home. The following Tuesday, Rahul visited Luminous Arts Studio during an afternoon session. The space had evolved dramatically. More rooms had been added, the equipment was newer, and professional quality display areas showcased student work. But the heart remained the same. Children finding their voices through color and form, guided by compassionate mentors. Daniela, now a poised young woman of 11, squealed with delight when she saw him and ran to give him a hug. Other returning students gathered around, eager to show him their progress and hear about his adventures abroad. Sophia watched from a distance, struck by how naturally Rahul reintegrated into the environment they'd created together. He had changed. There was a new confidence in his bearing, a lightness that hadn't been there before, but his genuine connection with the children remained unchanged. After the session ended, they walked together to the cafe where they'd first met, now renovated but still serving the same lemon pound cake. They ordered coffee and sat at their old corner table, the symmetry of the moment not lost on either of them. The studio is magnificent, Sophia, Rahul said, beyond anything we imagined. We laid a strong foundation, she acknowledged. Everything since has been built on that. And you? Are you happy with your path? Sophia considered the question. I am. My work has purpose. I've helped create something meaningful. And you? Singapore was transformative, Rahul admitted. Exactly what I needed, though not always what I wanted. And now? Now I'm home. Ready for whatever comes next. They sipped their coffee, the silence between them comfortable rather than strained. Outside, rain began to fall, a gentle spring shower that traced familiar patterns on the cafe windows. I kept thinking about what you said, Rahul offered after a while. About completion. About how some people come into our lives for specific purposes. I remember, Sophia said softly. I've wondered many times if we made the right decision, if we should have tried harder to stay connected. Sophia set down her cup. And what conclusion did you reach? That you were right. Rahul met her eyes directly. We each needed to follow our separate paths without compromise. I wouldn't be who I am now if I had stayed or if you had come with me. Nor would I, Sophia agreed. But I've also realized something else. Rahul leaned forward slightly. Sometimes paths that diverge can converge again when the time is right. The implication hung between them, delicate as a brushstroke. "What are you suggesting, Professor?" Sophia asked, echoing the teasing tone from years ago. "Nothing presumptuous," Rahul assured her. "Only that perhaps we could get to know each other again, as the people we are now." Sophia studied him, the familiar features and the new elements that time and experience had added. She thought about the empty canvas waiting in her studio at home, and how every painting began with a single mark of possibility. "I'd like that," she said finally. Outside, the rain intensified. Sophia reached into her bag and pulled out a familiar object. The umbrella Rahul had painted for her years ago, its colors faded but still vibrant. "You kept it all this time?" Rahul asked, visibly moved. "Some gifts," Sophia said softly, "are impossible to part with." They left the cafe together, sharing the painted umbrella as they stepped into the rain. Neither knew what the future might hold, whether this reconnection would lead to friendship, partnership, or something else entirely. But they understood something fundamental that they hadn't grasped during their first journey together, that true masterpieces were never finished, only continuously evolving. As they walked through the rain-washed streets, Sophia was reminded of her grandmother's wisdom about God painting through people. Perhaps their story wasn't about endings and beginnings at all, but about the infinite canvas of possibility that existed whenever two people chose to create something together, whether for a season or a lifetime. The rain fell steadily around them, but beneath the painted umbrella, they were sheltered in a world of their own making. A world where kindness offered freely could return in unexpected ways, where broken things could be transformed into something more beautiful than before, and where the most meaningful journey sometimes led right back to where they began, but with new eyes to see the wonder of it all.